Rich is an average man that sits on the porch every night to look at the magnificent night sky. He has a lovely home that sits upon a hill looking over the ocean. As he sits on the porch, he can smell the ocean in the air every time he takes a breath of this wonderful world. He thinks he's the luckiest man alive because he has a wonderful family and a decent paying job. His job is to help customers with problems they're facing with their products. He's the best in his department and was offered the job to become the head of the department just weeks ago. Rich is the type of person to get joy from helping others, and that joy is what drives Rich to do great things. As the clock hits midnight, Rich heads inside to sleep in his comfy bed next to his divine wife. The following morning, Rich heads down to have breakfast and sees his kids playing with their food. "What's for breakfast, honey?" said Rich. "Pancakes with maple syrup and a cup of fresh coffee," replied Mrs. Bennet. Instead of eating in the kitchen, Rich takes his family to have breakfast in the backyard under the big bright yellow sun and the blue sky. As the clock hits 7, Rich and the kids hop in the car and wave goodbye to Mrs. Bennet as they back out of the driveway. Rich drops the kids off at their school and makes his way to work to help the people in need. As Rich walks into the office, he says hello to his fellow workers and sits at his desk in the big black comfy chair. "Hello, Bennett's office," said Rich. "Hey, Rich, you mind coming down to my office?" said Nick. Nick is Rich's boss. Now, Rich has never been in Nick's office other than time where he was in there for the interview when he was joining the company many, many years ago. "Come on in," said Nick. "Am I in trouble?" "No, Rich, you're not in trouble, but as you're the head of the department, I'm going to need you to fire the people that are on this list." "May I ask why I need to fire these people?" said Rich. "Well, the company wants to give people raises and a bonus for Christmas, but in order for them to do this, they need to downsize the company." As Rich sits in Nick's office looking through the list of people's lives he will be ruining today, he sees a familiar name, Raymond. Raymond is a single father raising 3 kids. He feels bad that Raymond is getting fired, so he tries and tries and tries to convince Nick to let Raymond keep his job. But Nick said that the only way Raymond can keep his job is if Rich himself gets fired. Rich is okay with that as long as Raymond keeps his job, so on the spot, Nick fires him. Rich goes back to his office to pack up his stuff, but as his co-workers see him leaving with a box full of his stuff, they're surprised that Nick decided to fire Rich. As Rich drives home, he wonders how he's going to tell his family that he's lost his job. He even wonders how he's going to explain to the love of his life that he lost his job just so he can save someone else's job. He opens the door to find his wife sitting on the couch watching her favorite show, The 100, on Netflix. "Honey, what are you doing home this early? Aren't you supposed to be at work?" said Mrs. Bennet. It was Nick's birthday, so he let everyone out early today," said Rich. "Well, alright, do you want something to eat?" "No, I'm good. I'm just gonna go upstairs and lie down in bed." As it's time for the kids to come home, Rich goes to school to pick up his kids. But all he could think about is how he's going to support his family. "Hey, Dad, what are you doing here? Mom's usually the one that comes picks us up." "Well, honey, because I got out early today, I told your mom that I would pick us up so that I can take you out for ice cream." They all went to Dairy Queen, and they spent so much time eating ice cream that by the time they got home, it was time for supper. They all sat at the table eating their dinner, but all Rich could think about is what he's going to do tomorrow as he can't go to work or stay at home because Mrs. Bennet will get suspicious. Then suddenly a plan comes to him that he's going to go to the casino tomorrow to double his money by gambling with the help of his best friend Kevin. Later that night, he sits in his bed reading a Wendell Berry poem as they are his favorite and calm him down whenever he's stressed out. The following morning, Rich does not stay for breakfast but goes straight to Kevin's house to talk to him. "Hey, Rich, what are you doing here?" said Kevin. I need to talk to you about something. Can I come inside and explain to you, said Rich. Rich goes inside Kevin's home and explains to him how he lost his job and how he's going to make more money so that he can support his family and that he needs his help. Kevin and Rich go to the casino, but before they do, they run to the bank so that Rich can make a withdrawal of a fourth of his money. Luckily, there's a casino right down the block of Kevin's home. As they approach the casino, they go straight inside to get their chips, then right to the blackjack table. Kevin almost won every single round besides the round he asked Rich for his opinion. Unlike Kevin, Rich is an unlucky man. He lost all of his money, and Rich turned out to be the unluckiest man ever to walk into that casino. It was time for Rich to go home so that his wife doesn't get suspicious. Kevin and Rich made a plan to do this tomorrow and see if Rich will be lucky then. As he walks up to the door of his wonderful home, Mrs. Bennet opens the door to welcome him, but saying nothing, Rich walks straight past her to his bedroom to freshen up for supper. Mrs. Bennet is surprised that Rich didn't give her a hug like he always does. She suspects that there's something wrong with Rich, as she's been married to him for over 20 years and she's right through the mask he puts on his face to hide his emotions. I will get to the bottom of this and figure out what's wrong with Rich, said Mrs. Bennet in her mind. Instead of eating supper with his family, Rich goes outside and sits in the backyard thinking about how he's going to tell his family that he's lost his job and how he's going to tell his wife that he made a dent in his bank account by losing all the money by gambling. Honey, come on in and have supper. It's cold out and you're going to catch a cold. Rich refuses to go inside and eat supper. Mrs. Bennet gets so mad that she yells, Richard Frederick Bennet, get your ass inside and have some supper before it gets cold and before you get a cold. Rich has never seen his wife this angry. He goes inside and has supper, but goes straight to bed afterwards. I plan on taking all my money out tomorrow and try again, said Rich in his mind. After a good night of sleep, Rich leaves his home without having breakfast. He starts the car and goes right to the bank and withdraws almost all of his money. He left an eighth of the money in the bank, enough money to last him 1 week for groceries at Big Y, or to buy a Glock 19 with 3 magazines. He goes to the casino with Kevin and loses all of his money again, while Mrs. Bennet is at home worrying about him, so she decides to call his work. It takes a while for them to pick up. Is Mr. Bennet there? I would like to speak to him, said Mrs. Bennet. This is Nick speaking. And no, Mr. Bennet is not here. He lost his job a couple of days ago. Now, Mrs. Bennet is really worried about her husband, as he did not tell her that he lost his job and keeps on wondering where he's been going for the past couple of days instead of work. Meanwhile, Rich was planning to rob a bank of $11 million with a gang using a Glock 19 and 3 magazines he bought at a pawn shop. Gang and Rich planned for hours and hours and said to take that plan in action at noon. While they were planning, Mrs. Bennet kept on calling Rich over and over again that he got so mad and threw his phone at the wall and destroying it. Come on, pick up the phone, said Mrs. Bennet. Then she heard a message on the phone that was different from the last calls. It said, the number you were trying to reach is no longer available. This is because before throwing his phone, he took out the SIM card in the phone. Rich and the gang successfully take that plan into action by going to the bank and capturing the manager and forcing him to open the vault. But before they got to the manager used the panic button. So they now had 5 minutes to grab as much money as they can and escape. But by the time they got their money, they realized that they were surrounded. The gang takes their share of the money and runs away using the tunnel underneath the building. Rich, instead, grabs a person by gunpoint and goes outside to bargain with the cops. He orders them to let him go or he'll kill everyone in the building, including them. The cops don't listen to him and he shoots the woman in the head and opens fire at the cops. The cops open fire at Rich, shooting him 5 times. Holy shit, why do I hear police cars outside? What did Rich do now? Mrs. Bennet opens the door to hear the news of her husband trying to rob a bank and was shot while trying to rob the bank and open firing at the cops. She falls to the ground crying. With Rich spending all of their money, Mrs. Bennet is left with nothing but her kids and the house that isn't even worth much.